I was just thinking about I had a nice conversation with my dad tonight about heaven and how it works. Dad's saying, you die and you go through, or we go through a lot of trials in life. You battle. Oh, the wind's howling. You battle the elements, and then trials and tribulations, and then if you're good, you go to heaven or whatever when you die. But that's nice, but you're probably not conscious, are you? You won't know heaven. You're dead, and I was trying to tell him the way I believed it would be was we're like a medium, human beings, between the physical and the spiritual world, and through love you can actually bring heaven to earth, and it manifests on earth, and you can actually find immortality that way, through loving or marrying Jesus. So he's like the God. He's the medium, the main medium that you marry, and it marries heaven and earth, and sort of heaven's the king, earth's its bride, and it sort of marries, the two. So that's when earth's perfect, like the way it is at the moment. It's not ready to receive a king. Heaven is the king, so it's not ready to receive that earth, so it doesn't. There's no wedding. That's why I'm still single. But I was just thinking earlier, about my history and where I've come from to get to this point, through the ages and through all the different things I've been through, all the different people I've been. And I think the most interesting is probably recently, before I was born. And I remember it was around sometime just after 1900. Something happened, and I was sort of transported through these 300 men, and each one of them was an aspect of my personality. And Elvis was one of them, Elvis Presley, or Aaron Lee Presley. And I remember I came down to this area near Mansfield, and I was looking around thinking, this is where I'm going to live, And when I went back home, I was with my wife, everyone used to rubbish her because I was off with all these pretty girls and she was home by herself. And I remember when I started to get sick, I wasn't that kind to my wife, and when I was really sick, I raced into the bathroom and threw up, and then was sitting on the toilet, and as I did a big rotten shit, it was like there was a man standing right in front of me, and it was Jesus standing there right in front of me, and as I looked up, I just thought, it's Jesus, And in that moment I died, I realised I'd never existed. I was just always this man in front of me. I was just Jesus. I was just part of him. and I died and then walked off. Jesus walked off. And he walked off over the period of a few months, and the other 300 men died at different times. And the same thing happened, walked off. And then I got to the end of all that, and I realised the whole time I wasn't actually there. I was actually in my mother's womb. I'd been conceived. And I wasn't really awake, but my spirit was aware of this, you know. And then I was born, and my first real memories was waking up gold panning at Denali and on the river's edge, and I went from there, you know. Yeah, born a demigod. If I had been born a god, I would have had this big, strong body, but I had this enormous soul. There's 300 men plus the spirit of Jesus all combined. And, you know, I was just the most blessed boy, because I knew without a doubt I was alive and awake, and it was like the first time I'd ever seen the world. It was just, I don't know, it's like I'd been forever dreaming of this moment of being awake, and finally it arrived, and it was just like a blessing of just, I don't know, I couldn't work out why I felt so famous or important, but I was just this normal little boy in a town, but I felt like, you know, like I was world famous. And yeah, I'd already dreamt about going to the rave and all that other stuff that had happened. As Elvis, I dreamt about it that's what I meant to mention, a few days before, when I was, you know, talking to my wife, and I got home and I was sitting there thinking about it, and, you know, just before I got unwell, and it just terrified me having to go through this rave. I was scared to death that it would all go wrong, and, you know, I'd sort of said that when I die, that'd be the end of love and money would rule the world, you know. But yeah, since then, you know, I've grown and grown, and then all that power inside of me evolved into a superpower, and just gone from there since, just growing, really. Sort of battling the elements and growing. I haven't really felt loved, like nurtured. Which could be a symptom of a lot of things, really, just the attitudes towards religion, and the attitudes towards women have changed, the attitudes towards, I don't know, maybe my family not being perfect, my mum and dad's lives not being what they wanted, not having their maternal and paternal parents all perfect, you know, might have affected it. But ultimately, I achieved what I set out to achieve, to find the superpower and to evolve, and that's what I set out. And if I had married along the way, well, so be it. But I can't make someone do something they don't want to do, or you know, I can't decide in someone's mind that they want to be immortal. They have to choose that themselves, you know. And it's hard for people to understand immortality. They think you remain in this body, but I can see another way of transporting from dimension to dimension, not actually having to be born again. You just prepare ahead of time the next dimension, you just move into it. As it appears you die, you actually just move on into another dimension, and that dimension becomes a new reality on Earth or wherever you are, wherever you've made this reality. That's what I was talking about. Terraforming Earth is kind of like preparing it for this transition. It might sound crazy, but it's just a different way of marrying the world. When my marriage as a young boy didn't work out, it would have been a marriage of more people. But it's just a different process, probably the worst way. The most work, the most casualties, and probably the most impleasurable way of doing things. Whereas if you marry young, more people survive. It's more pleasurable. You're making love, mixing, you're having friends. You're not on your own all the time. And what was the other one? Yes, less work. It's more fun, You can just party and have all your friends and family around you and all your girlfriends and whatever else, and just the world's a good place to be. It's just been the opposite, really. And it's a shame it has to be that way. Like, I've tried my guts out to try not to make it that way, but it's just the corrupt world surrounded by, and just hasn't had my best interests at heart, For whatever reason, no one wanted me to get married or something. I don't know why. I'm still always hopeful, I'm a superpower. I'm hopeful that someone will see these videos and see sense and think, oh, he's all right. I'll just go see what he's like, He might be a nice guy, I know they expect Elvis, but I'm not Elvis. I'm Elvis is one little part of who I was, I'm a bigger soul than that now, than little Elvis. But I have all that ability in me. But yeah, those souls, when I found that superpower, those souls moved on. They're part of me, and I rebirthed them all into another world. There's different other beings and different other places and people, and yeah, I mean, it's a complex thing to work out, the spirit world. It's very very interesting how it works, I do have that memory of seeing Jesus as Elvis just standing in front of me as I died, and then I just walked off. I was actually Jesus the whole time, just part of him. He's going around collecting himself up again. That wind's going to sound bad on that. But yeah, I'm never unkind to my wife as Elvis, but she just seemed like missed out on the fanfare and just stayed at home a lot, and I'd get home and I'd be tired, and we'd make love, but just I don't know, just like she was just playing second fiddle to all my fame. And I just think in the end it's probably what killed me off, because I just felt like not that I was being unfair, but how do you put it? I felt like she was like more of a daughter to me, and that what I was doing going out partying with all these girls, and I'd go away for weeks on end and just party, and then come back and she'd just be by herself. And, we'd have a good time and have sex, but then I'd just be off again. And, yeah, I don't know. I saw her as I didn't see her as a daughter, but thinking back, it's sort of like that's what she was like, just a daughter to me, like not a. That's what it. She wasn't a high roller. She was just a regular girl, and I was like this mega star, and I couldn't be on her level, like just one on one, like. So it was almost like back in those days, you couldn't marry 1,000 women. Like I didn't even think of that, but it's like I had to change into Jesus to marry 100 women to fulfill that balance of who I am inside with the reality on the outside. Whereas as Elvis, it was like I was in balance. Like I'd get home, it'd be like a one-on-one, but it was like I had this other, my world was bigger, and she was just this one little girl. And yeah, anyway, I'm getting a bit off track, but yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, just having yeah, it was like the light was in my face, and I get home with her, and the lights would go out, and I'd just be alone with her. And then, yeah, I remember one night I was sitting there, and don't know if I should share all this. I don't know who's going to read it, but yeah, I was sitting there with her in bed, and she says I love you, and I couldn't really say I loved her, like. So I just said, I just said ditto, and yeah, I think that's when I died, when our relationship died, and I went and died. I just said ditto instead of. I didn't want to be with her forever. That's what it was. Yeah, I didn't want to be with her forever. I loved her, like I wanted to, but I knew I didn't want to. I just didn't want it to be the one for me. I was too caught up with all these other people. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story of when I was Elvis. Thank you very much.